About Gemara. Today's daf, we are up to daf Mem Dalad, and we were in the middle of explaining a brisa. The brisa makes a distinction between whether you sold a property, karka, or whether you sold a pora or a talus, a cow or a tala garment, which is metaltal. You sold the property, and then a third party, comes along and claims that it was stolen goods. Then you're not permitted to testify on behalf of the beneficiary. On the other hand, if you sold metaltal, you could. And we were trying to understand. L'chayda has no difference. It's no difference whether it's karka or metaltal. The difference is whether you're responsible for it. Then obviously you have a vested interest. You're biased, and if you're not responsible, you're not. So therefore, we learned this whole elaborate pshat, Rav Sheshes, about that is a Ganev stole it, and the victim then wants to testify on behalf of the buyer away from another person who comes along and says it was stolen from him. But at the end, we're not happy with that pshat. Abaye asked two questions on it, so now we're up to another pshat and understanding the brisa. Four lines from the bottom of the page from Daled and Aleph. 5 lines. Ella, another way of learning pshat the brisa. Kederovim Bashmul will follow the view of Ravin, the son of Shmuel. Ravin Bashmul, Ravin Bashmul has different pshat altogether. He said, name of Shmuel, is you sell a field to your friend. So what happened was, forget about that a person stole it the way we learned before, and he sold it to somebody, and then the victim tries to defend that person against another person who said it was stolen. That's not what happened here. Reuven sold the field to Shimon, but said loy b'chayis. I'm not taking any responsibility if it's taken away from you. That's it. Ein meyid loy Allah. He cannot testify on behalf. Let's say then another party, Levi, comes along and says that the goods were stolen. Reuven, the vendor, who's a general vendor, cannot go ahead and advocate on behalf of Shimon against Levi. Why not? Now, if there's a chrayis, if Reuven took responsibility, then understood, because he wants Shimon to maintain the field. Otherwise, he has to personally reimburse Shimon. Obviously, he's in the Geba Dover, he can't be named. We're talking about Shalei B'chayis. He told Shimon, if the field gets taken away from you, it's seized, I am not taking responsibility. So why can't he advocate on behalf of Shimon? So we learned before the concept, which means what happens if Reuven owned the field and sometime before he sold it, he lent money, he borrowed money from someone, and that person has a lien, a mortgage on his field. So he's very happy for the field to remain with Shimon, so that it'll end up with a Bal Chayv. And furthermore, he doesn't even have to reimburse Shimon. So he's not the gay bedover, because it makes no difference to him. You would think it makes no difference to him. Still, you cannot testify, because this way he wants the field to remain with Shimon so that he can pay off his loan to some Baal Chayv. Because if Shimon loses the field to Levi, who says a stone field, so then this Baal Chayv will go directly to Reuven. So Reuven, you owe me money, and the field that you said that there's a lien on it is gone. It turned out to be yours. So he obviously is happy for it to remain by Shimon. But Davke bias or sada. So why then is there a distinction between a bias or sada or a part? What's the difference? Because when do we say there's a lien? If somebody lends money to you, when do we say there's a shibud on your assets? Which assets are they? Only the nechosim, which is property, land, not metaltlin. There's no lien on metaltlin, because he doesn't say me. He knows metaltlin come and go all the time, so he has no money. The person lent you the money, he never intended to collect from metaltlin. There's no lien on it. So that buys a soda where might be a balchay who has a lien on it. So therefore, you're interested in make sure that it stays with the buyer, so the balchay can collect from it. Our part of it talus. But what about when it comes to a part of the talus? We don't have to say bestama. That bestama, let's say he didn't make it a point to say, oh, you're going to collect from this part. Stop.
You could take musk.
That's no longer sitting by Reuben, it's sitting by the Balchayv. So bestama istam delay mishtab delay. Surely there's no shibud, there's no lien from the Balchayv on metaltlin. My time and metaltlin, it's metaltlin, and we have a rule: metaltlin the Balchayv le mishtab. The metaltlin are not indebted to the Balchayv. Then I forgot the kosole in the star. Usually you're right. Megulima dal kaspe, an expression that you'll give the shirt off your back to pay back the loan. So we see metaltlin are included. Hani mili the istu benayu. That's only while it's still sitting in the possession of the borrower. But if he sold it to somebody else, there's no lien on the metalton itself.
Once he sold.
Well, there's no lien. Ella, so Chiddush is nachma. Afilu asa poitike. Even if the borrower said, Reuben said to his balchayv, "This para is I'm making a poitike. Poi tehei koi. You are going to collect from this para." So l'chayda, now that you sold it to Shimon, so l'chayda you would think now that you sold it to Shimon, so the balchayv can go to Shimon and collect from this para. So how can Reuben testify? Then if Levi comes along and says it was stolen para, how can Reuben testify? L'chayda negay b'davar because the balchayv can collect from it and he'll be putter from paying the balchayv. So he wants the para to remain with Shimon. Namiloi, my time why kiderava. Like Rava said that even though there's a shibud, certain things break it. Rava. Also, Rava said if you made your Eved has a din, let's say like kark, whatever. So even if you made your Eved a poitik, you say, look, if I don't have what to pay you, you can go and take this Eved, collect it. And the din is a mechore. And he sold it to somebody else. Baal Chayv gave a menu by Evet, the Baal Chayv has a right to collect from it. But you'll see them in. You'll see them in. Not at all. Not at all. You have to do your own research. But if you made a Shoyre Chamoira Poitige, is Mechori, he sold it, Ein Baal Chayv gave a menu. A Baal Chayv cannot collect the Torah. You made it on a Poitige. My time, what's a chilik? What's an Eved or a para? High Easter color. Eved, everyone knows. But the borrower, Reuben doesn't have to inform the buyer. The buyer does his research, he'll find out. Everyone knows that this Eved there's a lien on this Eved from some Balchayv. So if the Lekech bought it, it's too bad on him. The Balchayv can go to Lekech and buy it. We're not going to make a takana to protect the Lekuchas because you could have done your homework. But the whole that's the color to make a para. It's so insignificant that there's no coil about it. So the lekech couldn't have known. So we are going to step in, intervene, and protect the lekech. So therefore, when it comes to a para, the balchayv can never collect from it. And that's what we mean in the Mishnah. Here's achrayis, here's not achrayis. Achrayis means by karka, there's achrayis. It means the balchayv, if you sell it, has the right to collect from it. When it comes to para, italis, it's metalton. If you sold it, the balchayv cannot collect from it. But still. Why are you always saying, give me a blanket statement that you can testify on behalf of a potter because the Balchayv anyway cannot collect from it, and if the guy loses it, you don't have to reimburse him, so therefore you have no vested interest, so we can trust you. You can say, hey, this. But why? There are possibilities with Balchayv does have a lien on the potter. How? Dilma aknele metaltle aga mekarken. Just like we learned in Mar Kedushin, you can buy the chosim she'ein lehem achrayis. Agav the chosim yesh achrayis. I buy from you a property and a cow at the same time. I make a kinyan chazaka on the karka. I'm automatically or kesser, whatever. I make a kinyan on the karka. I'm automatically kind of also the metaltlin because it's tougher to it, it's secondary to it. So maybe that what? Maybe when he sold it to this Lakeach Shimon, Reuben sold it to Reuben, the Shimon. He also sold property with it. So the lien that's on the property now is a lien, or also on the part as well. So the Chaydi doesn't have a vested interest because about Chaydi collecting it. Says the Gemara, Rabba said, sorry, I said wrong. What happened was that the Moiches sold. Maybe let's be chayshish. Here we can ask the lekech. Let's be chayshish. The meicher sold to the balchayv a property, and he says, "Agav the property, I'm also going to give a shibud on the metalton for the loan that you are giving me." And then he turned around and sold the metalton. So there is a lien. So here's a heichet tipso. There's a lien on metalton. You sold karka to this balchayv, and agav the metalton. You said also that. What do you call it? That I am going to be mishabed. I'm giving a shibud on this metalton. That you can collect your chay from this metalton whenever you want. And then he sells it. There's a lien on it. In this case, he can't be a lien on it. Rabba said that if he's matching him metalton together with the karka to the balchayv for the sake of a shibud, if I don't pay you in time, koni mekarka, koni metalton. He's paying the karka and the lien on the metalton as well. Says the Gemara. Omar of Chida says, who the cost of he writes the loikas machta. Chida says when you wrote the shtar shibud to the balchayv, you wrote on there there's no asmachta that is commenting on Rabbi said, when do we say there's a shibud on metalton? If you wrote clearly that in the start of shibud, I'm saying to you that I'm completely mishabed myself to you, that which is metalton with the karka. It's not like a smachta, because it's not really a proper full sale, because you don't know if he'll ever lend you money at the time. You don't know if anything ever will happen. I'm just giving a stam of shibud. So it's like an asmachta, right? It's like an asmachta that if you lend me money, then there'll be a shibud on this metalton. No. Asmachta means that we had it before Machlekes. Asmachta is kain not kain. Asmachta means, if I win, the money is mine. I don't know if this is going to happen. In fact, probably it's not even going to happen. But I'm just taking precautions. So Kenyan cannot be kain if it's only in Asmachta. And Nachman, even if you lend me money straight away, if I don't have what to pay, then you can go to this metalton. That's what so it's only an asmachta. So you have to strengthen the shtar. How do you strengthen the shtar? I don't want it to be like an asmachta the alma with asmachta la kind of. Like it takes a shtar. I don't want the shtar to be like the documents where they practice on, but it's not a real shtar. So you have to make it real. But there is a possibility to carry the shibud on metalton as well. So how can you say that Reuven, the vendor, can advocate on behalf of Shimon who bought the metalton? Maybe there's a lien on these metalton. How do you get a lien metalton? Because he sold to the Bachav Karka, and also he added a shibud to this metalton. If I borrow money from you and I don't pay back. He bought and sold the metalton straight away. So therefore, we say that he didn't borrow any money between the time this Reuven, the person who was selling the property to Shimon, bought a property, and 5 minutes later he flipped it and sold it to Shimon. So when did he have time to borrow in between? So therefore there's no chashash. That's the case when we say that Reuven can advocate and have a Shimon, when there's no reason to be concerned there's some outstanding loan. So that's why he can stand there and advocate on behalf of Shimon against Levi, who's accusing Shimon of buying stolen goods. So the mother of the why aren't we worried, Dilma, the Ikne, Amalei? Why aren't we worried that he said to him, to the Baal Chayv, if I ever buy any metalton in the future, that there's a lien on it, because there's a whole shakotay in the Gemara. We know what the concept of shalei balon. We can't make kinyanim on things that don't exist yet. We had a machlekes, a and others, and then we had a mafkid of huna, dekol pedis. But over here, there's a whole shakotay by a mashkin. Can I say that if I ever borrow from you, if I ever buy anything, I'm borrowing money from you right now. And part of my shtar says that if I ever buy anything, it will become, the shibud will be chal, even though it hasn't happened yet. And there's a whole shakatay Gemara, bring an eye from it, that you can't. Because otherwise, how could Reuven advocate on behalf of Shimon? Maybe later on he bought the metalton. True, 5 minutes later he flipped it, but the shibud fell on it straight away from a loan that he took a month earlier. So let's bring an eye from it. The ikne kana umachar kana v'haydish le'mishtabed. That if he said anything I'll buy in the future, and he sold it or anything I buy, and he yash to others, the shibud is not chal on it. That's why Reuven can advocate and have a shibud. Says no, you're saying the only way you can get a lien on metalton is if you buy his karka at the same time. They're talking about a case. The ka'amri edim say yadinan be'bahai delahav adam elam. We know that this borrower Reuven, who sold the metalton to Shimon, never owned the property. So he could never have done a shibud, selling a property and then on a shibud agav metalton. Now, this is a very interesting Gemara. Remember this tesis of Mendalo and Beis. It's actually more in the Rishonim tesis that says no. The Rashi, there's a tshuva of Rashi. We don't have a Rashi, but the tshuva of Rashi is quoted in the Rashba, and Rabbi Tam agrees with his grandfather that every Yid has 4 amas in Israel. Every Yid has 4 amas in Israel. So by principle, you have to have karka, you automatically have karka. Everywhere you have to have karka, you automatically have karka. And the starters, they write, the karka is meshubed, because you do have karka. We don't have to ask you, do you own karka? Because every Yid owns 4 amas in Israel. And Rashi adds very interesting, because the goyim who live in Israel, no matter how many years, never had a kinyan in Israel. Nobody can take land away from Israel, from a Yid in Israel, and therefore, what do you call it? Every Yid has land. That's what Rashi Ben Tam says. We all have a chelik. And then everyone's caught a few can quote it. Therefore, they have no right to give away any land in Israel to the Arabs, because it's not theirs to give. It belongs to every. So they ask the kasha on Rashi. What about the Gemara right here? It says Gemara clearly here that there's no land. So based on this, the other Rishonim, the Ramban Taisus himself right here says, don't learn like those. He says, no. Interesting, he doesn't mention Rashi by name. Don't learn, and he uses the expression kamoi, and which is a very time. Don't learn like those that say every has a land, because he really don't have land. But Rabbeinu Tam answers, the Shittas Rashi, here Rabbeinu Tam answers, is talking about a ger. And a ger has no land in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore it's possible a ger has no land. That's what we're talking about here. The person has no land. You're going to your dinner, we know he has no land. And another thing is other Hashem holds, not Rashi, but others, that every person has 4 amas of kaver. Every person has a right to be buried in the ground. So everyone has 4 amas in the ground. So therefore, everyone has karka. And here's the more problematic because since everybody's entitled to be buried. So what's something about here? Let's say Ara. So Ramban wants to say that it depends if the cemetery belongs to the whole city or the cemetery belongs to each individual has to buy their own plot. If it belongs to the whole city, then everyone has cheli 4 amas. And here we're talking about that each one has their own plot. So if you didn't buy a plot, then you don't have. Yitaka don't have. Everyone has a right to buy a plot. But you can't say no to anybody. But Kozman, you didn't buy it, you don't have it. That's how they want to learn shot in the Ramban's words. Right? Good question, I don't know. Mace Kain Arbam is where he is. Kain is Mekayman. Thinking about it further, we had another big Mafred Shani. What do you mean? Some of the Shani learn, by the way, that they aid him say, we know for a fact he owed no land. How do you know that for a fact? The only way they can say that is they say that if they were there with them 24 hours a day, literally. And other Shani, it's impossible. In fact, we had before that the Shchenim can say that we know this person lived in the house. Well, they saw him 24 hours a day. But so they say as long as you did the normal way that people interact, and you never heard him say that he owned property, you never heard him say talk about property. So that's enough ages. Not that like those that Rabban and others learn. He has to be contributed 24 hours a day with a person, which is it's impossible. How in the world will you be so much 24 hours? Anyway, let's go back to they said we know for a fact that you weren't there. The Chayim has a question. The Papa said, even though a person sells a field to his friend without any responsibility, and the Baal Chayv came along and seized it. He cannot go back to the vendor and say, "Give me back my money because I sold you without a price." I told him not taking responsibility. But the Papa said, "What happened to me with stolen goods?" Then Chayzerlov. So Reuven, what do you say? Reuven has no vested interest. Of course, Reuven wants Shimon to keep the property. If Levi comes along and says it's stolen goods, then it turns out to be that it was, Reuven never sold anything to Shimon. So one thing is by Baal Chayiv, even though you only had it for a day, any payment you made during that day was yours. So you got something from the sale. Something happened there. But when it comes to, it turned out to be with stolen goods, then the real owner can collect all his payers back as well. So what do you have from the sale? Zero. If you have nothing from the sales, like a metric charge, the whole thing from the beginning, he has to reimburse you. So what do you mean Reuben has no vested interest to make sure the property remains with Shimon? Of course he does. Expression that the person who bought it says, I know, he said in the beginning, I know that this is yours. I know this is the donkey, this is the daughter of your donkey. So if once he's moided, the buyer is moided that the property taka belonged to Reuven, who sold it to him, then even though Levi goes to court, brings false witnesses, and Levi ends up with it, Shimon has no kindness back to Reuven because you yourself are moided that was genuinely mine. So what do you want from me? I sold you a good property. You lost a case against some charlatan. Leave me out of it. Even it turned out to be the holding Mekatosh, you can't go back. Why? That's why I sold you without responsibility. I didn't only mean no responsibility if a Baal Chayv collects for you. I meant in any circumstances. Machlek is achreinim, and if a papa would agree, because machlek is with Allah line, and machlek is achreinim, if a papa would agree, if you clearly added no chayv. Because I didn't say Stam, okay. Papa says then you have to give him back if it was stolen goods. But if he clearly said, I am not taking responsibility, would a Papa then be made that even if it turned out to be stolen goods, you don't have to pay? Let's analyze it. How much that responsibility he made, like cannot testify why because the Baal Chayiv, he wants the land to remain with Shimon, so the Baal Chayiv can collect from it. You want to hate him, I don't understand what's going on. The din is that first you go to the borrower, and if the borrower doesn't have, then you go to the buyer. If the borrower Reuven had other properties, and the Baal Chayiv is not going to go to Shimon, he'll go to Reuven. So what's the problem? Why is there vested interest? Shimon's not going to lose. So what Reuven should be able to advocate him, have a Shimon to Levi who's accusing him of buying stolen goods. The Baal Chayiv will go back to Reuven, and either he has no other land. Then what's the difference who he owes the money to? If he has no other land, then he owes money to Baal Chayiv and he cannot pay. And if the Baal Chayiv then goes and takes away Shimon's property, and now he owes money to Shimon, he's a new Baal Chayiv, not called Shimon, and he and what do you call it? And he can't pay either. So what's the chiluk if he can't pay to the Balchai or he can't pay to Shimon? Why do you tell me that he has a vested interest in Shimon? If he has vested in Shimon, then he makes the difference because then Shimon loses the property. He'll now owe money to Shimon. So either way, he'll owe the same amount of money. So mine have to to him. So what do you tell me he has a vested interest? What does he care? Mine have to mean him in Loilam. What said Loilam? He has no other land. And still he'd rather remain Bashir. Why? The Gemara, the Pasuk calls him a Russia. You borrow, you don't pay. As what do you call that? If he doesn't pay the Baal Chayv back, everyone will accuse him of Loiva Russia. You borrowed money, but Lo Yishalma, and he didn't pay. So therefore, he's happy for the land to remain with Shimon, so that the Baal Chayv can collect from there, and he will no longer be considered Russia. But you have a new Baal Chayv now called Shimon. And you can't pay him, so you're still a Russia. What's the difference? So if the Gabi Lamed Lo Russia Yishalmu, the Gabi Shimon also Russia Lo Yishalmu. Yeah. But he says, no, that's why I clearly said to you, I'm selling that Achrai. You know why? Because I don't want people to run around saying that I'm a Russia. You'll stop anything tomorrow, Mr.